All right. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
All right. I'm not used to sitting for this long. It's been a long day, and then I'm also not used to, if I were to talk to you, I'd want to stand and move, and not being able to do that is also limiting my energy. So I'm going to focus everything I can, and talk. If I talk fast, I apologize. It's not the caffeine. It's just I'm energized, and it's nice to see all of you. So I'll give us about 30 more seconds as everybody else populates back in. I will say that these months have been spent in what seems like a lot of theoretical conversations, and then the last few, I would say the last week or so, it's been exhilarating and exciting to see that school is around the corner. And so what I'd like to do is use our time to the best of our ability. I have a little bit I'd like to share with you in terms of a framework of what the upper school experience might be. And then we have questions that we're going to answer for you. And then if there are questions in the chat that you have that come up, put them in the chat also. It'll give me at least a sense of, how many more of these meetings we schedule with parents and whether they're by grade or just as a division. So the feedback is helpful. And I think all of you know that if you have questions, you can definitely reach out and talk to us. I invited Dr. Sullivan to join us. So he's here too. And I know that we have some upper school teachers and lower school and middle school teachers that are also parents that also who are also with us, and I'm going to let them be parents in the conversation. What I'd like to start with is very much just in terms of, there is no pandemic playbook. I may have shared this with you in other sessions, right? It's not like I can go to my parents and say, hey, mom, can you tell me what you did during the pandemic? I could have asked about unemployment. I could have asked about, the first heartbreak and all of those things, but there just doesn't seem to be a pandemic playbook. And so within this process, what's really important to me is that we take care of each other, that we're taking care of our people, that we're putting health and safety as a priority, and then prioritizing the relationships for of people in the building. And I'm acutely aware of the fact that COVID especially, it's people on, it's the same storm in different boats. And so that optionality that people need to come to school is important. So yes, I recognize that being on campus is important. But parents having that option too is also important, and our teachers having that option too is also important. So that's the framework that would it. I see questions that are coming in. So let me give you an overview, and then we'll get to questions. So first of all, we're keeping our schedule and our letter days. So we'll keep the AB schedule, and we'll rotate through the AB schedule. So classes will be 80 minutes long. We are working on traffic flow and patterns, and we're going to teach kids about the traffic flow and normalize what the new normal looks like. And so the start of school, I guess I'm making a commitment to myself that I hope that this is not forever and this is not permanent. So I'm making a commitment that a lot of the things that we do this year, I'm not going to name it by the things we did last year. To the best of my ability, we're coming up with new names. So the opening days for school, I'm calling it reorientation and acclimation. And so that is the opening day. So in that time frame between the 26th and the 6th, we have a plan where students can come back into the building. So the research out there, I mean, the kids left the building and their last memory of the place is what the building was before COVID. And so we need to make sure that they get a sense and familiarity with how to navigate this new space. It's familiar, but it's different, and it's different. And so classrooms are smaller, 6 feet. Desks are separated. Teachers will have the optionality of designing the desks how they want, but 6 feet apart. We have a PVC pole that's 6 feet, and we can place it in every direction to see which way we want it to go. We have the 3 holding spaces, or well, that's not a great word, but the overflow spaces, where students can be remote on site. And in these overflow spaces, there are opportunities to learn. If a class is larger than the capacity, then the teacher will work with their class to determine what the rotation is between overflow and the class. So the same student won't be in overflow. And then teachers have significant autonomy in how they use that time. They can split that 80-minute block into 2 40-minute blocks and do something synchronous and asynchronous. They could decide to do a lab one day with half the class, and then the next letter day, they're analyzing the lab. So teachers have options, and I have faith in what our teachers can do and what they can, how creative they can be in these situations. Part of those reorientation days is getting kids active, so getting them acclimated. We will send you a schedule. So one grade level will be in the building from about 9 to about lunch or so. We want them to have the experience of walking through the building, seeing the spaces, getting lunch, acclimation. That is the goal. So bonding activities and familiarity with the space. Our ninth graders, by far being our newest members, will get 2 acclimation days. They're the first ones to go, and then they'll be the last ones again. So then they have a better memory of it. Students who are new to the building, who are new 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, will get a smaller acclimation, and then they'll get another acclimation with their grade level. We'll practice. We have one hallway. Within that hallway, we have to teach kids how to walk through that hallway. So we will practice, and get a sense of how it'll be. So we're adjusting passing time, lots of instructions on how to adjust to this new behavior. So teachers will do our best. Kids have to have masks on. If students can't wear masks, I need to know, because if having masks is the only way to protect our teachers and to protect everybody else. And so if masks aren't an option, then we really I need to have a conversation with you as to why, so please reach out to me. But masks is important. Mask breaks are recommended by the CDC, so upper school students can go walk outside, but not in groups, and can take a mask break. Mask breaks happen when students eat. And so those will be places designated for upper school kids. Our time in the building will be, 8:30 is our 8:50, is our start of classes, and 3:30 is when we end. And so what will be different for kids is that they won't be used to being in what I affectionately call the Upper School Commons Grand Central Station at all times. They can't come and go. And so to keep the building clean, to protect safety, that's going to be, I think, the biggest adjustment for kids, is not having access to the building that they've always had access in years past. And it'll be unusual for all of us in that sense. How much time do I have, Danny? I don't want to, because I can feel the spirit capturing me, so I need to.
We are kind of running tight, so I would pick like the top 3 most important things, and then I'd like to hit a few of the questions.
Great. So within that, what we're asking is that, at the beginning, we'll just take things slower. And so we will take it slower at the beginning, make sure that we are learning these COVID protocols, making sure that kids feel safe in the building and understand what they're doing. And then eventually we'll be able to ramp up and work faster. But my priority is at least getting everyone comfortable, settled, and feeling good about the choices that they're making in the building. So safety, priority, social, emotional learning, health and wellness. So that's where I'm coming from all of this. I'll stop talking because I do believe that some of the questions that are on there are helpful, and then we'll talk about what we can do with our programming also. And then
awesome. Thank you. You wrapped that so quickly. That's amazing. So as I mentioned in the main breakout, my name is Danielle Turkovich. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications here at Wellington, and the proud parents of 2 lower school kids. So this is a super fun conversation because I don't get to be involved in a lot of upper school stuff. I am going to run through the most frequent upper school related questions that we received in the parent submission form. If we have time, we will address on air the questions in the chat. And if not, please rest assured that we are saving this chat at like every 2 minutes to make sure that we capture every single question here, and we'll issue division level FAQs as well as school-wide FAQs for parents and faculty and staff. So rest assured we're reading each comment and we will address it as fully and completely as we can. With that being said, Rishi, the first question I have for you is from a parent who asked, how do you plan on managing student locker use, morning meetings, and the ins and outs of, the typical classroom crowds that gather in the hallways, social distancing? How are we going to manage that?
So great question. Thank you. So given the hallway and the way the hallway is, we're working on traffic patterns. So learning how to use vinyl stickers. The floors may be ruined, but we want the directionality and the symbols to be obvious and visible. And so all of the common spaces will be spaced out 6 feet, tables and chairs, so kids can't really glom on like the way they used to. In addition to the pieces, I have to stop looking at the question because it's distracting me as they're coming. In addition to those spaces that we have with the students, we also have to we will be very clear in expectations in those opening days. Danny, could you give me the second part of that question?
Social distancing in the hallways and other crowded areas.
Thank you. And so within the commons, tables will be placed 6 feet apart. We're looking to see if we can put plexiglass between kids and in where they will sit. Lines that go into bathrooms, so kids know. So lots of visible spacing. Right? We'll keep talking time and time again and enforcing. Commons will be supervised. Classrooms also be supervised. So really making clear that we're hitting the message and what we're learning from athletics. And what's happening with kids who are coming back to practice is that kids are following these expectations. They're doing what they're supposed to. So I'm confident that students will rise and will take mistakes on a case-by-case basis. We can't have lockers, students using lockers during the day. It'll congest the hallways. And so locker access will be limited to before school and after school, about 8:30 to 8:50. And then from 3:30 to 4 was when locker access will happen. So it'll take a while for the kids to learn traffic patterns, and then they'll figure out when the appropriate times are to go to locker to get something. But otherwise, we're going to ask kids to have everything in their backpack.
Awesome, thank you. We have about 5 minutes left, so I am going to try to pick some of the more pressing questions. One super pressing question that came through loud and clear in our surveying as well as in the question submissions was around social emotional health. I think that is a huge concern for parents. It has been since the spring. Can you talk about what upper school will be doing to support our students, both on campus and off?
Absolutely. So to me, the social emotional health is key. I can tell you that, even as an adult, I've had my days, good and bad, and it hasn't been easy. I always joke that I picked the wrong year to become an administrator. And then what do I do when there's not a pandemic year? And so the real priority is how we develop those relationships. So for the start of the year, in the week of the 24th, you can expect as a parent, every parent will get a phone call from the advisor. And so this is our first sort of intake and check-in, right? How are things going? What are you worried about? If you've made the choice to stay at school, what are your concerns? What are you looking forward to? So we'll collect that data. So the advisor as that first point of contact is very important to me. The second point of contact is that we still will continue to have advising. We have a schedule that allows advising to meet the second half of lunch every day, and that also gives us the spaces that we need. And so checking in with kids. We have an excellent counseling team, and I know that we'll be working with Mr. Jones to talk about, well, how are students coping? What are strategies that we can use to cope? And what's on your mind? Share with us channels of communication to us and to advisor to the teacher. So those are the built-in pieces. We'll check in with you. Time and time again, you have access to us, even though you can't be in the building. What COVID told us is that it's easy, it's quick to schedule a Zoom meeting to check in and to find out what's going on. So those lines of communication that we're proud of that we have at Wellington, we'll really need to lean into that over the next few weeks, especially at the beginning. The more data we can get, the better.
Okay, thank you so much. So we've covered what we're doing to ensure, or at least do as much as we can to protect our physical health and wellness. We've talked about the social emotional aspect of both learning from home and on campus. And the last question that I'm going to pick with 3 minutes left is really around what we're doing to ensure that students don't fall behind if they do need to learn from home for an extended amount of time. From an academic standpoint, how are we ensuring their success?
Thank you. So this again, I would say doesn't have an easy answer. So for students who are learning from home, I get it. Their last frame of reference is learning from home. And this time around, it will be different. They went through it a couple of months. We know what works. We know what doesn't work. We know what the pressure points are for the students. So that intake conference, especially if your child is going to stay at home, then that initial conference that we check in that you have with the advisor, let us know what's going on. If we can identify what the challenges are, then we can make a plan. Are there weekly check-ins with the advisor? Are there check-ins with the teacher? What is the relationship? What support can we get from our counselor? So we really want an all hands on deck approach to those who are. So we'll have to learn as we go, but communication with parents will be absolutely essential in those beginning phases.
Oh man, you still have 2 minutes.
Okay, great. There were a couple of questions on here in terms of hand washing. And I think just a couple of things that people are talking about, hand washing, hand sanitizer. We will have hand sanitizer available in the classrooms, available in public spaces, and we'll encourage kids to do it. And that's part of our mantra. Signage, us saying over and over again, right? Don't forget to wash your hands. Wear your masks. Keep your distance. And I do believe, each time I sort of give in to the scariest moment, and I think teenagers don't care. Truth be told, I'm still in this job because teenagers care. I'm in this job because they're good kids, right? I mean, they just act like they don't care, but I believe in them, and I know that when things are hard, they rise to the occasion just as we are asked to rise to the occasion. So I'm going into this with a lot of optimism. And so within that, in terms of fast enforcement and what kids do, I want to deserve the right to use common sense. We have policy where we can try to figure out, is it a student not wearing a mask all the time? Well, that's a very different conversation than a student who had a mental lapse and took a mask off, wasn't thinking, has a conversation with the teacher, and then doesn't again do it for a month. So if I say you have 2 mask warnings and you're out of camp, you can't be at school, but that's a month apart. That's very different than a student who can't keep a mask on all day, or a student who does it every week. And I really want that flexibility to be able to have that conversation. So that's important, right? The kids are going to be equally nervous. The kids are going to be nervous about making mistakes, not looking like the first person to sneeze in a mask. I can only imagine what that would feel like. They're teenagers. Nobody wants to be different. And so I'm aware of that heightened sense of anxiety and worry. And the last thing I want to do is feel like any mistake they make is dangerous, right? I made a mistake. I can't ask for help. I can't tell you what I did. So it's going to require us to be compassionate and to really understand, intention, what's happening, and then, be upfront with what comes next. So we will have a policy,